So and still, I guess that we'll receive more once the web page refreshes. So we'll go through this exercise a little bit later, but I just wanted to start this second or the second part of the session after we have gone through the physical verification process. Remember that just to give it a summary in a nutshell, SD8, the physical verification planner, will put the strategy in place in order to do all the physical verification process. Who is going to verify, when is going to be verified, all the equipment, the different places and functional locations to be covered, whether we have several sites within the mission or the entity and the travel plans involved, right? All those things outside of Umoja. Eventually, he or she will extract the list of equipment and we'll put it in the templates. We'll extract as well the last discrepancy result from the same list of equipment. And then the whole team will go through the physical verification process in the different sites. We'll collect the results. All those results will be dumped into the template. And after that, the template will be uploaded into the system, and then those changes, those information related to the results of physical verification will be updated in the system, okay? But now it's the time when the SD11, the Equipment Local Master Data Maintainer, the person responsible for the different number of equipments under his or her responsibility based on its authorization group, will have to take action, okay? And we'll have to change the equipment master record based on the findings that our colleagues from the physical verification unit they have found. So in this process, not only after the physical verification process, but after we do the goods receipt and we enrich the materials, or during any of the property management processes that will affect a particular piece of equipment, the SD11, this person will have to take action in the equipment master record. As you already know, because I was the session last week with Elena, you can enrich the equipment master record, that data shell, in one single time after the goods receipt, and down the road in the life cycle of the equipment master record, but going through this code IE02, where you change things, right, from one particular piece of equipment. But what happens if we want to change massively, not only one, but 10, 15, 150 or 500 pieces of equipment in one shot, right? So that's becomes handy, and especially during these times of mission liquidation and let's say the reduction of some missions as well. So that's why I want to show you how this works. And it works with a template as well. It's called the Equipment Mass Enrichment Download Equipment Master Report, and it's going to start with a T code IE05. So basically, that's the list of the equipment that you will have to download and then put it in the template, and you'll see how it works in a minute, okay? Instead of going through, let's say, the sequence of physical verification process, and in order just to show you how you can do for more pieces of equipment, I downloaded a large list of equipment from MONUSCO. These are the equipments that will be given to you based on your user, okay? So, but in the following rows, we have plenty of extra or free type of equipment that will be given to you, I guess, in the post-training package. But I took the liberty to select, I don't know, around 10 or 12 equipment master records, and we're going to play around in one shot with all these serial numbers, okay, and make changes and use the template accordingly. Okay, as you can see, currently these are basically all computer tablets that belong to 2 or 3 different functional locations, as you can see in Goma and some other places within the mission. All of them I think they are assigned and they are installed. Okay. These are the series of technical identifying number, their authorization group, code center, and so on and so forth. Okay, you even have information on who verified last time these pieces of equipment. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these serial numbers. So let's imagine that I am the SD11 and I have to make plenty of changes to these pieces of equipment in one shot. And then I'm going to use the template to do so. So first thing I'm going to copy. Okay, remember that this Excel comes from the IH08 T code that we showed to you this morning. Okay, so I'm copying the serial numbers, and I'm gonna go to the system. It's 520, and remember I am the SD11, the local data maintainer. So I'm gonna go to IE05. Okay, maybe I have to connect again. Yes. So let me connect again. 520. This is my user. Okay, I'm gonna go to the body of exercise. So you see IE05, IE05. I click on enter and I see I can select my list of equipment from a particular plant, maintenance plant. You have plenty of options here. This T code is really similar to the one that we saw before, IH05, okay, with all the different fields in the report. So again, I'm gonna go to the multiple selection. Remember that I copied, it's in my clipboard. If you recall, it's in my clipboard, all these serial numbers from Excel. So I'm going to make use of this functionality and insert 12 single values in one shot, okay? Starting with 061, I'm gonna double check, 061, and the last one 63. And the last one 163, perfect. I execute, it's already there. And then, very importantly, at the bottom, instead of the layout set PV, which is for physical verification that we did before, what we're going to do now is I'm going to select EQ mass CH&G equipment mass change layout. All right, so I execute, and basically this is the view from the report, and this is pretty much the same thing that I'm seeing over here, right? I have serial numbers with the description, function location, description of the function location, information on the user status, system status, and this is pretty much what I can see over here, okay? If I scroll to my right, I see information on the business area, code center, planning plant, and even its function location right at the end. Let me just put this a little bit bigger so you can see that belongs to different 2 or 3 different functional locations. All right. So what to do now? In order to, first we have to get an extract in Excel of this list, but before doing so, I just want you to take a look at the template that we want to use, okay? So we all know what to expect. Let me see, it's not over here. It should be in my desktop. Template must update. This is another template that you will retrieve from here. Equipment must change data template. And you know, good thing it was updated, both the job aid and the template some days ago. It's 17th of April 2020, the job aid, and the template almost 1 week ago, or less than 6 days ago. Okay? So here you click and you can download the template. As per the job aid, I really encourage you to go through this job aid. It's really straightforward. You can see over here who can access or who can make use of the equipment mass template, mass enrichment, SD10, obviously SD11, and then there's the 17, which is the PADP approver, okay, all related to the PAD process, okay? But in general terms, it's our SD11 role, and of course, the global data maintainer, who has even more functions to perform from the equipment master record perspective, okay? So SD10, SD11, and SD17, these are the persons who will eventually use the template and will update all the data into the system, okay? As you can see, the procedure of the massively enriching equipment master records, it's applied in different scenarios, like enrichment or removal of the equipment parameters as a whole for dozens of them, the installation or dismantling of a functional location, right? And this will particularly applicable for liquidation purposes, right? The way that when you basically are going to dismantle, or you're going to remove the functional location and the BP assigned to a large number of pieces of equipment. So you may want to use a template for doing so instead of doing one by one. Enrichment or removal of equipment parameters as a result of sale, write-off, or disposal process. Of course, this is applicable to our case. Equipment assignment to an equipment owner. So in case that for whatever reason we bought in a PO, we receive 250 tablets in the goods received when we assign when we get the transfer requirement, and then we put them in the warehouse. But then when we issue those 250 tablets to one single person, for example, the responsible of training, because those tablets will be used for training in Brindisi. So for, I don't know, a business decision maybe to give it to those tablets to the person responsible of the training unit in Brindisi. So all of them will be, from the system point of view, belonging to one single person. So you can doing that in one shot, okay? Changes in the equipment user status, of course, not system status, but user status. If we want to put 250 different type of vehicles under write-off process as a user status, you can do that in just one single click. And enrichment of the equipment master to add performance tracking characteristics in the form of measuring points for maintenance purposes. So yes, you can do that as well. So it's really, as you can see, very thorough and complete. And it tells you basically, you see with multiple selection how you can go through the different screens. This is pretty much like an exercise as we do usually. Okay, so good thing is just it's really accessible, and it's been already updated only 6 days ago. So let me go back to template. So this is the template for massive mass update. First, as we saw before, in the template for physical verification, you have a tab with the instructions, very clear, and with kind of like added information for your own reference. For example, you have equipment statuses with the key and the description, equipment idle, equipment assigned, in maintenance, in transit, not found, in write-off process, of in sale disposal method, cannibalization, this administrative error. So all of them are there for you for your information. Information related to the key to the BP functions, meaning that set B will be the key for the user accountable. So when we go to the equipment master record, and let me just refresh your memory. Let's see if this works. Here we go. This is equipment master record, department assignment, the vendor. Okay, this is the key when we are, sorry, if I can see this. Okay, where was it? The key for the BP. Sorry, I was in the template. My bad here. I was in the template. All right. So CV is the user accountable. VN will be the vendor. Set P will be the implementing partner. So over here, you have the vendor, implementing partner, and user accountable. Here you will be as a SD11 enriching this part, but only for this particular piece of equipment, right? One by one. So let's see, let me go back to the template. So you have here instructions or reference, let's say key with descriptions, all the planner groups, all the authorization groups, maintenance plans, business areas, in case that you wonder, what all these key codes mean, become quite handy, all this information in Excel. So good thing, you have your instructions and you can follow all those instructions with reference information that is really handy. So in the second tab, we have the I05 data extract. Here is where I'm going to dump all the information coming from this report when I extract to Excel. All right, I will do that in 5 minutes from now. And then this is an important tab, which will be the place where we will update the data based on the different equipments that we will see around here. Basically, in a nutshell, mandatory columns or columns with mandatory information to be filled in will be in red, related to the description, of course, the user status, the authorization group, acquisition value. So relevant information will be tagged in these red columns. Then optional fields will be the ones in blue, or here, more related to planner group or call center, business areas. You'll see how it works, but I just want you to have a little bit of context of how the look and feel of this template is. Information on the partner assignments, okay? Insurance, measuring points, and then, so they're basically all the different fields that you can find in the equipment master record will be there for you to be used eventually in this template. Okay, so let's go back to the system, and this is the report that I launched. I will do it again so we don't lose track. Remember that I selected 12 pieces of equipment. Okay, so and then very importantly, the layout will be AQ must change. So I execute, and this is my report. I will extract, and I will slightly do it in a different way. The extract, this list, instead of going to a spreadsheet, I'm going to go to save, file, spreadsheet. And here I will identify the directory where I want this Excel to be placed. So I will go and I will leave it in mission extracts, right, in O. Let me just double click. So I am in my O drive over here, exactly. Mission liquidation extracts. And here I'm going to name it mass extra DC, for example, training, and then that XLS, very important, has to be in Excel, because if you don't put anything, the encoding will be in text. So this is important, okay? When you put a file name to this extract, make sure that you put the extension XLS, which is Excel. Okay, so then you generate the report. So I'm going to go to the directory O, to mission liquidation extracts. And here see an Excel file, okay, from the version 97, XLS mass extra DC training. So let me double click. Open anyway. And this is how it looks. And it looks kind of poor in terms of layout, but we don't care, because eventually what we're going to do is we're going to copy and paste all this information into the template, okay? And very importantly, I'm gonna go back to the body of exercise here. So we follow all this process. You see save, spreadsheet. I place it there. Very importantly, open the downloaded file. It should look like this, it's okay. Click and select the whole, let's say, spreadsheet. Why? Because we want to change the format of the cells and make sure that they are numbers. And then we have to put 0 as decimal places, okay, in order to make sure that the information that is dumped into the template follows the proper format. All right, so I'm gonna go to, let me see if I can find it. Okay, oh, here we go. So this is my file. Sorry, it happens the same, you know, I'm just navigating from the VDI to Chrome. So what I'm going to do is first select the whole spreadsheet, right click, format cells, make sure that all of them are numbers, and making sure that there are no decimal places. Okay, doesn't look like a huge change, but this will help us to dump the information properly into the template. Very importantly as well, without taking the header, what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to select all those equipment master records from B to Z, right? I think it's column B to Z. I'm gonna copy and I'm gonna navigate here, so I'm making sure that I don't forget anything. And then paste the data you copied previously, excluding the headers, in the tab to IE05 data extract. Okay. So I will go to the, sorry for that, I guess it takes a bit of time. Okay, so this is a template, IE05 data extract. And I copy it and make sure that it's in the first column, row number 5. I paste it. Here we don't have a problem with the headers as we had in the other template, because here the layout for the equipment must change, fits exactly the different columns in the template. So looks okay. And then when the data extract it's placed in this tab, let's see what happens if I click on the third tab. You see it's automatically populated with the information coming from the second tab, from this tab. So here now I can work in the massive change of all these pieces of equipment. So as we saw before, and let me just put it a bit bigger so you can see much better. All the columns in grayed out, you cannot change, okay? The columns with they are not grayed out, of course, are subject to be changed, or you can include some information, okay? But as I said before, if they are with red header, that means that this is a mandatory field, as you can see, and it's pulling out all the information from the data extract and populating this tab. So I can see that all of them are equipment assigned, all right? This is the authorization group, and so on and so forth. So everything there is stored. Now is the time when the SD11, based on the different, let's say, inspections and the different research going through in the authorization group, he or she will be able to change things here. And once this template is finalized, then will be uploaded into into the system. And this is a very important step, because now without any workflow involved, and this is, I think, an important point, I can be, let's say, a horrible SD11, and I can really mess things up using this template, changing things in production without even my, let's say, supervisor knowing what's going on. So I can entirely change different aspects of the equipment master record massively and upload into the system without anyone noticing by myself. Okay, so there is no workflow in place. So this template, the access to this template and the access to the T-code to upload this information into the system, it's a workflow itself, right? You have the access, you have the possibility to do it into the system. So I think this is an important piece of information that we all have to bear in mind. So if I want to change for example, and let's do it massively, right? In case that, for example, you are in the mission and sorry. And from all this equipment assigned, for whatever reason, all these tablets are undergoing maintenance, for example. So you want to change the user status from assigned to in maintenance. You have here a drop-down with the different codes that you can find in the instructions, right? And when the equipments are in maintenance, you should select AQMT. Should be around here, AQMT, equipment in maintenance, all right? And I'm going to do it, I'm going to change that to all the equipment, okay? You can do the same for the authorization group. I'm not going to do it. Here you have a drop-down with all the codes. Again, the reference to the codes are in these instructions, remember? Here, the authorization groups here with the description. Then we have here the object type, which is I guess, the material group. The value acquisition, you can change that, but we are not going to do that. The acquisition date, which is the maintenance plan, the Tech ID number as well. And if I scroll to my right there, I can include a model number, for example. I can here 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. I just want you understand that you can really make a lot of changes to in just one shot. Just remove this one. Okay, this is the model numbers, the manufacturer serial number, business area. Let me scroll to my right to see the functional location. You see the current functional location is this one. Okay, 10.0206 and then different numbers. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change to another functional location within the same mission. And I'm going to use the same first code, which is 100.206, then 04.08. Okay, and this is the one that I will include to all these pieces of equipment, because let's imagine that this functional location is related to the maintenance or the unit that is going to give some maintenance to all these tablets, right? First, we change the, let's see, user status, right, to all in maintenance. We put some information related to the model number. Okay, that's extra information, but most importantly, I'm changing the function location, right, from this one to another one that ends with 8. Okay, then I'm going to try to change the business partner as well. Let's see if we can do it. Initially, as you can see, right, I have a drop down where I can select set V, VN, or set P. Set P is the one, if I'm not mistaken, related. Excuse me, set V, the one for user accountable. Okay, so I have to select set V. And then I can put here a BP number, right? And I know that is this guy, it's Romeo Caballeros. I think it has the BP, it's from the training environment. I'm going to assign all these pieces of equipment because let's say that this guy is the head of the maintenance unit. And for the moment, because it's policy in the organization, we have to change the BP of the user accountable to this guy because he will take care of the tablets. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 95. Let's see if it works. All right, so this is the BP for this person. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to see if I can do this. All right, and then I'm going to assign all these pieces of equipment to the same person, to this BP number. All right. Everything related to the BP assignment, it's in green over here. Okay. Then we have information on some other conditions and even surplus. So there's plenty of things. Okay. So remember, we are, and let me go back to the list of records. We're changing all these serial numbers that originally they have this information to changing the user status, changing the model number, changing the functional location, as you can see over here. It's another functional location, the one that we put in the template, and then giving a BP number. Let's see whether this works. So let's say that I'm comfortable with these changes, right, as a SD11. And then make sure that I'm changing, the fields based on a physical verification or based on a particular exercise that my authorization group, my unit, it's carrying out in terms of, enriching and double checking that everything is okay and for all the equipments under our responsibility. So I go to the body of the exercise, so we make sure that we're following. Remember that the exercise now is going to ask you to take action to the equipment master records related to physical verification, right? It's not to a bunch of new equipment as we're doing right now, right? So I think it's better so you have the double perspective in the exercise. You can take action in the physical verification equipment, but now in the demo, what we are doing is we're going to take action in another 10 pieces of equipment, and we are going to massively change things in the equipment master record, okay? Then once we're okay with the changes, we are going to click on Create Excel Input File, which is this button, which eventually will create another tab over here with the information that we eventually will have to upload into the system, okay? And this is going to take a bit of time. And I cross my fingers because sometimes for some reason it doesn't work, and it may take, I don't know, a minute or two. So let me go back to the chat and check on Brian, how things are doing. Over to you, Brian.
Hi, Daniel. Nothing in the chat since your post. I don't know if anyone has a question so far. It's quite clear. We're basically just filling in another template, this time to make a bit more changes in terms of not only the status of the equipment itself. I see that the system is reacting, right, to what you're just generating now, but also functional locations, value, and other required fields that are all marked in red. I think it's quite simple to understand. If we've been following since this morning, you know why we're doing this, why it's different from counting and controlling. You see that we're changing different things than we were doing yesterday. Okay, so that for me needs to be understood, the difference between yesterday and today, and also why there are two different templates and what each one of these templates in this session is actually doing in the system when we're uploading them.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Yes, that was a good summary. You see that the update is complete. It says, please save data into text file. You see that there is another file created there, another tab. So let me click in OK. And let's see what we have here. Initially, you see it doesn't look like it's very promising, but it's because for some reason, don't ask me why, it gives you information on the right end of the template. So you have to scroll all the way to your left and check the different items that we have changed. You see the new user status is in maintenance. I think you might be unmuted, Brian, just in case.
I think it's Joseph. I'm not sure. Joseph, do you want to say something?
Okay.
No, I'll hang on for a few minutes and then I'll make a comment about the finance side of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So here I can see the functional location, the optional fields, and then the BP number with the key of the BP that I included over there. Okay. So let's see what's the next step. We have that file one generated. Importantly, we have to copy the data from that part without the headers, from column A to column AA, and save it into a text file, okay, in our local device. So let's do that. Again, from the very first column, do not forget, first column, not copying the headers. I always use my keyword in order to make sure that everything's okay. You see up until AA, but you can copy the rest of the columns, but the rest of the columns are blank, so it's okay. Control C, and then I'm going to copy it into a text file. Control V. Remember what I said, always, take a look at how these columns are displayed in the text file, because if for whatever reason it was not properly pasted, for sure the template will not be duly uploaded into the system. So it looks okay. I guess it looks okay. So let me save this. Again, I'm going to save it in O, and let me just put it in mass change training test. I'm going to see training. Let's see. Let's call it final. It's in O. Okay. So my text file, it's over there. So what to do next? The next step is to run properly the mass change, right? Uploading this text file into the system. And for doing so, again, is the SD11. Here she's going to use this long T code, set P ME Q change T code. Control C. Let me just put it in the system. Okay, it's not a complex one. Basically, always use the test mode. Select the path where you have stored the text file. I think it's mass change training final. I think it's this one. All right, make sure that I'm not missing any step. Here we go. And then I'm going to click on execute. Okay, it's equipment master data change and or measuring points creation change. This is the one we have to select. And then this is what we get. Remember that as a rule of thumb, green means okay in Umoja, yellow it's a warning message, but you can still go on. Let's see what this yellow message means. Well, it's telling us that from the 12 pieces of equipment, basically in all of them, we don't have any issues, but there is a warning message in each one of them saying that the function location will be replaced. So the system tells us, okay, it looks promising from the system point of view, will be changed, but make sure or just be aware that the function location will be replaced after you take action removing the test mode over here. Okay, so again, if I am SD11, I'm fully comfortable with this message, and still I want to carry on with this transaction. I click on the execution, and the equipment, all equipments have been changed successfully from the user status, the partner function, the function location. So all of them, I may assume that have been posted successfully. Okay, and I can just go take note of this particular serial number. Let me just take note of this one. It's 10993061. I'm gonna open another session and I'm gonna double check with IE03, for example, which is the equipment master record T code. So I have view of it, 10993061. So let's see what can I see. This, remember that this is for one single piece of equipment. Okay, so good news is that status has changed, the user status to equipment in maintenance, you see? So first it was equipment assigned, and then the template, uploading the template or the results of the template has an impact in the user status, changing to equipment in maintenance. Okay, so it's okay. Then what else in terms of location, organization? I don't see changes. Structure, you see the function location ending with 8. This was duly changed as well. Okay, so it's good. We can even take a look at the, well, it doesn't matter the description. It's okay. It's a function location in Goma. Well, actually, it's this one Goma RPA in PCIU office. And let me take a look at the BP, the partner assignment as well. You see that now we have a user accountable, which is Romulo Caballeros. This person now, which let's say it's the chief of unit of the maintenance unit in Goma, he is totally accountable for this piece of equipment. Only this one, okay? But let's run the T code with all the pieces of equipment and see whether, let's check whether all those changes have been done. And remember that the multiple selection is there, equipment, and then the second remark was the layout. Looks okay, so let me execute again. So now we see that the user status has changed for all of them. The model number has changed for all of them. That was a free text that I just invented, okay? And then function location, I always have to wait up a little bit. All of them 1008, okay? Except this one. And I will have to check why, okay? But I don't see the BP, and that's why you want to play around a little bit with the layout. If you click over here, you can include in the report some other columns that currently are hidden. So let me sort and put the, I think it's in P user accountable and description. So these two fields, I will drag it to my report. They will be at the end. Let me just put these 3 of them up on the way, the first 3, okay? Selecting the, here in the 3 arrows and putting in one shot the first 3 fields, function location, user accountable, and the description of the user accountable, the first 3 columns in my report. So you see the user, the function location is there. This user accountable, it's the same, Romulo Caballeros, for all of them, okay? For whatever reason, this function location was not changed, and this equipment was not changed for the user perspective. We'll have to double check why, okay? You can just double click into 08 and see. Weird, because you see in real estate, I can see here the object ID. Well, this is the function location. This is for real estate only. Okay, so let me just double click here. I'll go back instead of here and going to click now in the equipment. Now let's see, and then in partner assignment. And you know, it's why the reason why it's because it had another user accountable before we included Romulo Caballeros for some reason. So this was not properly, let's say, updated based on the mass change, right? Let me just click on the equipment. So here I asked the system to put the same BP to all of them. For some reason, for this particular piece of equipment, it was not done. Okay, I will have to check why in this partner assignment, right? But the user status was changed accordingly. So go back, and maybe I have here an error message. Oh, that's it. Okay, it wasn't changed because I didn't scroll all the way down, so it was my bad over here. But it's okay. It's good that these things happen, so we all see. And we have here two things to take into account. First, lessons learned is that regardless whether one or two records didn't go through, like these two, in red with this red dot, still the rest of the pieces of equipment will be duly updated. Okay. In some other situations in the system, if only one record does not pass the, let's say, the transaction is not created in the system. In this case, for this particular T code, the rest of the records that have passed in green, they will be reflected in the equipment master record. But for these two, because the equipment status does not allow dismantling, this one, and this equipment already is installed to a function location 407, but I really don't understand why all these equipments from initially, they really look the same. Let me just go to the equipment list. All of them is because of this, right? Because they already have this system status differently from the rest, available and stock installed, because this has this double system status, okay? So we'll have to check why, okay? So that's the reason why these parameters in terms of function location and partner assignment was not duly updated, okay? So let me go back and see finally, before I finish the demo. Let me go back to the equipment list. All right, and so you can see that except in these two fields, in these two equipment master records, the rest were duly updated using the equipment, the massive template for equipment enrichment. So in order to just to finalize this demo, basically this equipment must change may be used or might be used first after a physical verification process where you have to upload the discrepancy and eventually different fields that are subject to be enriched after this process, or on the contrary, this template can be used when we do a good receipt and we receive and assign to one particular, let's say, user a large amount of equipment, or we hand over a large amount of equipment to another from one BP to another, which will be the case in the mission liquidation project or case. And if our unit wants to undertake, let's say, clean up exercise in terms of master data elements for all the equipment under our scope and responsibility, and once all those changes are identified, then it will be applied using the mass enrich tool that we just showed to you. So that's pretty much what I wanted to explain for this demo. Hopefully it was clear. And over to Brian and Joe in case that you guys have any question or comment. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. I'll let Joe jump in. I know he wanted to speak a while ago.
No, I just want to ask, this person who's updating this mass document, he sits in property management, am I right?
Again, it's in property management. I didn't get that too well, sorry.
Does the local master data maintainer sit in property management?
Not necessarily. If from the best of my knowledge, this role may be assigned to any person in particular, let's say, or fund center, authorization group, or SAU, but not necessarily has to be in the property management or PCIU unit. For PCI unit, SD10 might be in the PCI unit because this guy will have access to all the equipment master records and will be able to create from the scratch, right? But to the best of my knowledge, SD11, it's given to focal points in SAU units, in authorization groups, in different parts of the mission. That's my understanding.
And just a last point, maybe some of the other people can comment. He or she can also update the finance element of the equipment.
Can you define the finance element of the equipment?
Well, I mean, update the values or change the values.
Well, from the template perspective, yes, he or she can, right? For example, I can here change automatically the acquisition value from 5. Let's see if the system lets me. Well, I can put here a different value. Well, sorry, that was the system, not myself. Yeah, you see that it has a maximum number of characters, likely. So, okay, so let me just put here 250. All right. So you can change the acquisition value and the currency involved, even the date on when this piece of equipment was acquired. Yes, the system lets you do that. And we can make do a demo if we have time and change the value of a large number of pieces of equipment if you want.
Yeah, and basically, if I'm not mistaken here, Daniel, the header says new acquisition value, right? So they're not really just like adding anything. This is given. So the data that they're adding to this column is something that they're basing themselves on. So in a sense, they're only just updating, but they don't make any big financial decisions in terms of why this is worth this much or so on. They're just really just copying this information into the system.
Yeah.
And there's also, Pietro says, thanks, Daniel, very clear. So I suppose that your explanation on the roles for SD11 and how that is matched, or if there is a property management role involved in SD11, or does anyone in property management have that role? I guess he means that it's clear and that's the way it is. And also Nico is mentioning also receiver, for example, has this role.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. RNI, right? RNI, yes. So, yeah.
Makes sense. They would have access to the value of the goods too.
I guess, yeah, because when you have access to the data, to the data shell, let's say, or to the data shell of the equipment master record, if you have access to IE02, meaning that you can change the equipment data shell, you have access to all the different fields, except for PADP, I think, except for this guy. Let me check. It was initially SD17 for PADP data only. The SD10 and SD11 will have no access to PADP, and let me double check that part so we make sure that we understand what that is. PADP surplus over here. So to make changes in the surplus condition or the preliminary asset disposal plan, right? So for all the information related to the disposal plan, if it is an asset, you have to have the SD17 role, and then you will be able to change this particular tab. But for the rest, I'm pretty sure that you can change whatever it's in, let's say, with with a white background, of course.
And besides that, Daniel, no other comments. It was basically Pietro and Nico. And Joseph, I hope the questions you had were clarified and answered. I also took note of it in this Q&A file that we're updating daily during the training. Anything that has to do with roles and who it's assigned to and what we're discussing here. So we can share that after the training as well.
I can put now in the chat how to access this job aid for the equipment must change. It's really handy, yeah, because it's not only giving you information on how to enrich, but gives you clarity on reference, on codes, the template itself in the first tab. It's quite handy, really. At least myself, it helps a lot. So it's, I don't know if you want to make a break or before we move on, we have BI reports to show as well. Or
yeah, great idea. I think it's the perfect time for a break.
Okay.
And again, for those of you who are new to all of this, don't hesitate to ask any questions, as basic as you may think they are. now's the time, or maybe think about them, take 5 minutes break, a coffee, and maybe you can ask them when you come back.
Mm-hmm. And after the break, we will go through the polling questions. We get it done, and then we move on to BI. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. So hello there.
Hello, Daniel.
Hi.
I see the answers are looking better.
I don't know. I'm a bit preoccupied, honestly.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah. So we go one by one, all right? First, in the left side, I didn't have time to really give format to this, but left side, it's ex ante, the initial test, and the results on the right side is the ex post try, right? The second, after going through the session on physical verification, okay? So the first question is, which are the main roles involved in the physical verification process? And I was shocked to see that before even going through the session, we had 100% rate of accuracy. So all of you, 25 out of 25, said that was SD08 and the SD11. Okay, let me go and check. So questions, which are the main roles? SD08 and SD11. I was a bit, I was trying to confuse you in the second option, which was the SD08 and SD10, okay, which is very similar to SD11. But none of you got confused. And of course, none of the financial accountant or senior accountants has anything to do with physical verification. So in general terms, I may say that, well, great response rate. On the contrary, in the ex post, we had one person. It's not the same as, I mean, here is 25 versus 17, but at least we can see that one person, I don't know if it is the same person who responded A initially and then responded B, you know, he got confused. So just for the sake of being clear, the clarity is for physical verification process, the main roles involved are SD08, physical verification planner, and SD11, the equipment local master data maintainer. Okay. Then on the second question, in the sequence of events, that's a little bit more complex, if I may say. We have to select the correct sequence based on the, remember on this presentation, right? First, to generate the list of physical verification equipments, can conduct the physical verification process outside of the system. Then we load the verification results into Umoja after, I don't know, 1 month or two. No, because it takes time to conduct the PV process. Then this is the time when the SD11 jumps in and resolve the discrepancies, right, based on the equipment, excuse me, on the unit and the knowledge of where those equipments are stored and the situation of those pieces of equipment. And then eventually the VA reports will take place. Well, here, well, excuse me, sorry for going with the correct answer was, I think it was A, generate list of PV, conduct PV, load the results in Umoja, resolve discrepancies and BI reports, which is the blue one. I would expect not a good success rate initially, right? But you can see it's basically the same pie chart in the second try. So I know that it's difficult to grasp a sequence of events right away after one presentation, but I just, guys, want to make sure that you understand this sequence of events. It's a very high level sequence of events. And the first three, let's say, will be the physical verification planner and team. And then the last two, excuse me, the fourth one, resolving the discrepancy, will be the SD11. And then the BI reports will be accessible to anyone with the BI 55 role. Okay. So I hope it was clear now, or clearer. Number three is, well, number 3, 4, and 5 are related to which events may be triggered by the physical verification process. First one is the right of process. The other question was related to an update of the equipment master record, and the last one is an addition to a stock. All of them are true. So physical verification may trigger plenty of processes in the property management life cycle of an equipment. It may trigger a write-off process. Why? Because we haven't found this piece of equipment, or we found the piece of equipment, but it's just absolutely destroyed. So we have to write it off. So of course, PV process may trigger a write-off process. The physical verification process, of course, will trigger the update of the equipment master record in the sense of enriching whatever fields were not enriched initially after the goods received, in the sense that in change of user, for example, the BP of user accountable will be changed accordingly and that's done in the equipment master record, either with the T code E02 or with the mass template, right? With the massive enrichment template that we just saw. But in any of these cases, the equipment master record will be affected. Actually, is the data shell that it's affected automatically after a PV process. And lastly, the physical verification process may trigger in addition to a stock. Yes. Remember that when Brian carried forward this session on addition to a stock, sometimes when you go through the physical verification process, you may find equipment, materials, or stuff that were not originally there, not even related to a goods received or any PO. So you may encounter a situation where you have to add to a stock items that, well, let's say that they did not belong to the mission before. So that's why the PV process will trigger. It's kind of an exception, I may say, or not, but of course may trigger the process of addition to a stock. So important to bear in mind that the last three are true, because the physical verification process may trigger these and some other processes related to the property management and the life cycle of the equipment and asset master records as well. Okay, so how we can read this? So basically it's the same, you see the same percentage in the first and the second try. You see this pie chart is very similar. Very similar, well, a bit less in, let's say, wrong answers in the second try, but I would love to see all blue, honestly. In addition to a stock, it's even worse because most of you said, except only one person, that addition to a stock was true. I mean, the physical verification process may trigger an addition to a stock. And on the contrary, second try, and when you just now did it, like some minutes ago, two of you said that it was false. So just the idea is to go through all together the answers, make sure that we understand which is the correct answer, regardless the results. But on the contrary of what happened yesterday, that we clearly saw that there was some sort of the delta was shrunk a little bit, right, in terms of the number of responses wrong in the second try. Now we can say that it's not like that. We actually may say that the second try is a bit worse than the first try. So, well, food for thought there. Maybe that the session was not well understood, or not the same people took the first and second assessment, but at the end of the day, our objective here is to make sure that at least the answers to those questions are understood now, rather than in the polling questions section, right? But it's important that you understand what's wrong, what is, which sequence of events. It's the one that we are discussing now, what happens with the equipment master record after a PV process. All those things are important, regardless of these questions, right? But it's good, it gives us a good perspective of how you have been absorbing this session as well. So I don't know what you guys think. Over to you, Brian.
Well, now, hopefully, if it wasn't clear up to now it is. Thanks for going over the questions. I'm glad to see at least participation. Only 17 responses, honestly, out of 34 attendees. Like you said, maybe the case is that it's a different amount of people taking it. Let's see. It's time now to ask any questions. Please intervene in the chat or orally if something is still not clear, as it seems in the survey. Maybe we can even leave some more time to discuss things that may not be clear instead of jumping into BI right away.
Sorry, can I just mention something about the surveys?
Yes.
Okay,
Sure.
this is for everybody. It's please, can you do the surveys post and after, whatever, right? It's very important that the trainers have an idea and understanding of where you are with the learning process. So I encourage you all to complete this part of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, actually it's a win-win situation. It's for you and it's for us, and it's for the senior management as well to see you know, how things are doing during these days, and eventually to take action as well in the post-training package, right? Brian, over to you. If you want me to, I can jump into BI just to show you the reports involved for PV process for physical verification. If not, we can continue discussing some other aspects if you deem necessary.
No, I think honestly, we're here. We have another 40 minutes to go. If there are no questions to be addressed or no one raises their hand searching for help or more guidance, I think it's definitely worth it to jump into BI because it is going to give us another sight on what we're viewing today. We had a very interesting discussion yesterday. Mm-hmm. And every time we've gone into BI, it really spurs interesting topics of discussion. So let's go with that. And in case anyone else wants to intervene, now's the moment.
Okay. So thank you, Brian. I'm not unmuted, right? No.
Good. You are unmuted, yes.
Okay. So as you can see in the screen.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Maybe because I have this question since yesterday, and maybe it's the right time now before changing, let's say, subject or moving to BI. And I asked this question to the experts or those responsible for physical inspection, let's say in Brindisi. Because offline, some of us continued the discussion on how is it approached, let's say in Brindisi, how is it handled when you plan an inspection? For instance, you go by location, you go by commodity. Yesterday we have seen that you can choose bin locations related to a specific PID. So for instance, if I have a PID which is in 10 bin locations, like a computers in 10 bin locations, what do I do? Or what do you do in Brindisi? Do you inspect those 10 bins altogether? Do you inspect some, or do you go by location? And I ask you why, and I tell you why I'm asking this question, because it's not clear yet when it comes to searching certain bins only. We believe, some of us believe that there might be some way of okay, allow me this word, cheat, let's say. Instead of finding 5 items, you find 4, and then, you know what, you take one from another shelf, another bin, and you put it there. If I'm just doing this example just for you to understand where we come from. So I would like to know, how is it approached in Brindisi? Is it by commodity, by description, by PIDs, by shelves, by location, by bins? How is it done? And what's your experience of it? Thank you.
Thank you, Gianluca. Good question.
Yeah.
Okay, Gianluca, may I?
Of course.
Sure, Nico, all yours.
Okay, those activities are, of course, strictly related with the one faced yesterday, okay? Because, of course, into a bin, you can find more than one typology of items, serialized or not serialized, okay? So how we manage in Brindisi this exercise? The cycle count is performed by central warehouse unit. The physical verification is performed by PMU. Now, two different ways to manage, but basically the same goal to achieve, let's say. Now, from our point of view in central warehouse, our starting point is the PID. Okay, what needs to be count and physically count and physically verified is the PID, and everything is extracted from the report seen yesterday. And starting from that point, that is the PID, then you go through the bin level, and you make the physical verification of the bins, let's say count. The one you said before is not possible, because if you take something from another bin just to adjust the missing item, for example, that you find into a location, you will have the same problem later on, okay? Because you are removing something, and from a bin that the quantity will be different in the analysis of the bin from the one you are taking. So that's why we managed with the discrepancy and written off. So PID first, bin level, and of course trying to give a sort of priority in terms of entity: SDS, UN Reserve IPSAS, UNGSC, because we manage 4 report entity. On the other side, in terms of physical verification that is related to serialized items only, okay, and is managed completely by PMU, let's say Paul and Adriano, okay? And they start exactly in the same way, not random, because of course we, as I said before, we manage 4 different entities, so they plan more or less in terms of quantity for storage location, etc. And how they manage this is exactly the way Daniel explained in this presentation. So the purely physical verification of PMU that verified serial number, functional location, user, exactly, etc., etc., etc. They make both. Also for the stock, because they start with the material, the assigned items, and then they manage also the material in stock that are located in different bins, and that comes from a combination between the physical verification reports and the warehouse reports, that is LX02, for example, just to find out the location, okay? And once finalized, they made all the proper adjustments in terms of, for example, and we go back to the very first question from Gianluca Marrazzo on the first day. For example, the engine code. This is just an example. Let's assume that Adriano checked the manufacturer serial number. He discovered this is different from the one on the items, and he made the proper change, or the location is different from the one that is according to the system, and he made the change of functional location or user, etc., etc. So the very starting point is the PID. What are we checking? Then, as per cascade, comes everything else, location and all the rest. I don't know if it's clear. Then, of course, everybody can manage as they prefer in terms of organization of the work, but everything starts from this kind of analysis that Daniel explained during this presentation.
Okay, Nico. Yeah, thanks. It's more clear, though. I think just to comment your explanation on people will not move assets between bins because they will find the same problem later on. I mean, you know as well that this is this doesn't prevent people to move stuff around a particular admission level, and maybe when you find out that the same people is already gone, because you don't do that on the same day. Sometimes it takes over a year. And when we talk about bins like containers, split in different regions, you understand that the impact is not the same as it is in Brindisi, working in the same warehouse.
Yeah, of
But
course.
I
tell you let's say the Brindisi scenario that is completely different from the field. Of course it is. Okay, so that's why at field level it's probably managed in a different way, for this reason that the bins is an equipment itself. The bins is something that need to be physically verified as well, because it's a container. So it's a little bit different how we manage here in Brindisi, because of our structure, because of our storage types and storage bins, than the field. But the concept is this one.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you both, Nico and Gianluca. If there's anything else you guys want to add?
Can I expand the question of Gianluca, Brian?
Sure thing.
While we check this bin, Nico, and we are supposed to check this bin, and referencing to the PID, we should have 10 quantities of this material, and we find out that 8 are there and 2 are missing. If you have to start the write-off and you have to identify the equipment that are missing, how you can identify them?
Okay.
For the list that you have the list of all the PIDs, but you don't have the list of all the serial number that were in that particular bin. I don't know if it's clear, my question.
Yes, it's clear. That's why it's a physical activity, okay? Because when let's say Adriano go to check this material, he check also if the serial number is correct, and again it's a combination between the inventory and warehouse. If it is verifying material in use assigned to a user, it's an issue, because this is not located into bins but is located in functional location and is done at user level. Okay, so this is a parameter of search. Otherwise, if you have to check material in stock, but is at bin level. Okay, and that's why it's a combination of activities between us and them, because when we start our count, that basically start, as I told you before, at PID level, and then you go to the bin analysis, and you can find, for example, that PID that you need to count is located into a bin that contain also other product ID and they could be serialized or don't. So at least the last result is the count of the bin starting from a PID. Okay, so it's quite the same activity, but two different level of organization, Gianluca. Because when I go, for example, to check a bin, in which, let's imagine that I have an equipment not serialized on one bin. For example, a calculator. No, the most very simple items that is not serialized. That calculator could be located into a bin that contain, for example, a computer. Okay, my analysis starts from the calculator PIDs, and when I go to check in that bin, I count that calculator, but of course also the rest of the bin contents that can include a computer that is a PID, an equipment serialized. And this is a pure count exercise. In the meanwhile, because this is in stock, okay, Otherwise, Adriano, on the other side, once he has finalized the physical verification of items that are in use, they also could start a physical verification of item in stock. Okay, and this is exactly the same analysis. And then he go into the same bin, just to be sure that the items that he has in inventory, because serialized item can be serialized item serial numbers and equipment number can be checked at inventory level, not at warehouse level. He made his physical verification. Okay, so it's I know it sounds strange because it looks like two different activity, but that's why usually we work together with Paul, for example, because into a bin can be present some fixed assets or equipment that he needs to verify. As we said yesterday, when we made a change of PID or a bin-to-be operation, the inventory count doesn't count anymore. Sorry for the redundant words, but because we need to do again. And even if you change the PID into a bin only of one item not serialized, then you have to count again all the bin contents that could include also the fixed assets or equipment serialized. So in that way, we just send a message to them. Listen, this count of these bins has changed, needs to be done again, and if necessary, Adriano, Paul go to check again. Okay.
Thank you, Nico. There's a comment also from Anja in the chat. Unless Gianluca, you want to add something to that? If you guys take a look.
Just to see if I really understood. So technically, my question was, I had 10 items and I found 8. So what I understood from Nico, I search, I do an investigation on that bin location, and I will check what has been listed in that bin location to see and to understand for myself what is missing. Is it correct?
For example, Gianluca, let's imagine that we have in inventory 10 computers, okay? 10 computers. And from a system point of view, those 10 computers are located into a bin. Then we go and we find that it's only 8 in that bin, okay? So it's 2 missing, correct? What it means that those 2 computers can completely can be completely missing, or located into another bins in which has been established that there are 2 computers more compared to what there must be according with the system. So it's a kind of chain, you know. It's in terms of physical inspection and physical counting. Of course, it could happen that those 2 computers are missing completely; they are nowhere. But sometimes it happens that we found something more, some additional items in bins in which they don't have to be, that and that are related to different location. So it's the scope of the exercise is to let match every time inventory and stock. Okay. If they don't match, is a discrepancy, and it starts the write-off process. But of course, it's not an action that you perform just in 2-3 weeks. It's a year activity. It's 1 year activity.
Yeah, and Nico, like you're saying, if I look at a bin and I realize something's missing, but then I realize maybe the week after that that item is actually in another bin, but maybe I have already uploaded the status and I said equipment not found. So these, you wouldn't necessarily have to update immediately, right? The system, you will jump
Exactly.
back, check
We-
everything first, and then when you're finally 100% sure you've checked all the bins, then you do the update.
Exactly. We before to start with the process of not found.
Yeah.
We try to make our best to find an item. Okay, because another example. Okay, they have been removed first from the bin because there is an outbound to be processed, but not yet electronically done. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it could happen because of the huge quantity of material that needs to be prepared, that material is taken physically first and then removed electronically. This can be an example. Okay, so we start with our own proper sort of investigation before to create a proper discrepancy.
Mm-hmm. And to go also back to what we were discussing this morning, like Daniel was mentioning, right? Physical verification and accounting and controlling, different cycles performed at different times. But in a way, it's very difficult to see one without the other, right? Because in physical verification, you're talking about, yes, this item is still there. Yes, this item is still assigned to this person. Yes, this item is new. I don't know, we have to change the value, fine. But if there are discrepancies, if an inventory, you pull out an inventory report and then the item is not there, it's maybe because you didn't do the clearing of differences at one point during counting and controlling too. So somehow they go hand by hand. It's difficult for me to see them separate. I do understand that transactions are done differently and they have a different impact, but one thing has to be done correctly for the other one to work too, and vice versa.
Yeah, that's why most of the activity is related, instead of the stock items, to the one assigned to the user or to a functional location, to be sure that that item is there. And this is what we face, a huge problem we face in the field in Minojuice, because the item was still assigned to the user, but the user was already checked out from the mission, you know. So and then it was a problem, because from a system point of view, you have a laptop assigned to a person that is not there anymore. So it means that this job of physical verification has not been done properly before.
Exactly. And like, if you check Anja's comment in the chat, so it has to do with that, but in the sense the entire bin has disappeared. No, if the bin is a container and then the bin was moved, I don't know if that's a possible situation too, but then suddenly the bin may be there. I mean, I know this may be something linked to something else, but can that be the possible case too?
Yeah, vehicles, containers, you know. So that's why it's a continued activity.
Yeah.
To be performed. I don't say every day, but almost. You know, changing from a storage location to a storage type to, okay, today we analyze this storage type that could be an area or a field or a container yards, for example. And it's not easy. It's not easy because it's a combination of physical activity with electronic one. So that's it.
Thank you, Nico. I heard Pietro also jumping in.
Yes, sorry if I interrupt you, but again, just adding some 2 cents comments of what Nico said. All the example that we are, let's say, explained here are, yes, have an impact on the system, but we are, in my opinion, we are talking about some items that are not properly updated in the system. And here is the role of the user that have to follow this kind of, let's say, discrepancies, okay? Another things, the physical verification here is intended for serialized items only that are in use or, let's say, in stock, that have these two different, stock status. and not for the consumables.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's, I mean, related to the counting and control managed by, let's say, a warehouse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, making that point, right? That major difference between the two processes is definitely important too.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure. We didn't really jump out of the scope of today's conversation. We're just talking about the typical issues and responsibilities and wish list of what people should be doing and how often they should be doing it and the things we can encounter when we go to the mission and start working. It's important for us to understand these types of things too, and also the difference between, for me, counting and controlling and physical verification for students. That has to be clear today. I think it also will help if maybe we can jump in these last 15 minutes, Daniel. I'm sure that in the background you already been working on the report, so that it already has an output.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If you don't mind, maybe we can share that now.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Doing that now, and thank you. Thank you for the insights. Because at the end of the day, it's even more important to see what's going on in practical terms than going through the system for 4 hours. So it's important to mix both worlds and get the best of experience of you guys. So thanks for that.
And sorry, Daniel, before you even continue more, Anna was also requesting if this could be a report for the plant UNIMID, which I'm thinking maybe you already did.
Yep.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you.
So okay, let me just go to the presentation here. So this presentation is just intended for you to first identify the reports under scope for physical verification. It's called physical accountability. That's the title of the reports. You can see 1, 3, 5, 9. Those are numbers linked to KPIs for Kirill's team, right? So basically, I don't know about the missions, but some UN entities are starting to report based on these KPIs. I'm sure that some peacekeeping operations as well. So the idea is to, once these KPIs are duly implemented and everyone is trained, and the focal points in each of the entities have the BI 55 role, then we will have a common ground, let's say, from the property management point of view, and with these KPIs to compare how things are done in one place and the other, and which are the main issues that some entities are encountering while doing a physical verification, while going through the write-off process, while receiving the goods in a virtual goods receipt, or the status of their inventory, right? So that's why it's important to have clarity on which reports belong to the different processes within property management. For physical verification purposes, the ones that we're going to see, it's report number 1 and 3, report 5 and report 9, okay? Report 1 is, as you can see, it's a web intelligence report. It's this report. Let me see if you can see it. Hopefully you can see it. It's a web intelligence report, so it has the UN logo, and it's basically to be consumed and to see whether we are on track or not in different KPIs. Okay, it's called report number 1 on effectiveness of physical accountability of P&E, property and equipment, which means basically fixed assets. So report number 1 will be focusing on how the physical verification process have gone only for fixed assets, right? Going back to the presentation, for each of the reports you have several items, which is the intention, the unit of measure, which is the business need involved. We leave you for your reading here and for your own reference, but it's important to understand that in terms of measurements, this report basically is going to look at fixed assets in your mission, and it's going to take a look at the capitalized value of those fixed assets and the quantity of fixed assets and the percentage of the total capitalized value under control of the entity. Okay, so the KPI is set at 100% with a tolerance rate on 0.5. Why this KPI is so high, 100%? Well, it makes sense. You have to really go through a physical verification process during the reporting period for 100% of your fixed assets, right? It would really not make a sense to leave fixed assets outside and not have clarity on really what's going to impact your financial records at the end of the day. And especially if you're going to go through a liquidation process, you really have to know what's out there, what's the situation, where they are located, who is accountable, the conditions, and so on and so forth. So it's the target is set at 100%, and you'll see that throughout all these BI reports, all KPIs linked to fixed assets are very, very, I don't know how to say it, very high or very strict, in a way that they don't want to leave any information outside of the scope of this KPI, especially for fixed assets. So this slide will give you, as I said, all these reports have a job aid. And if you go to the job aid at the end of it, you'll see the scope determination. So you see which data it's reflected in the report, which is within the scope of this report. Of course, you'll have all fixed assets except the ones with system status equipment out of scope, administrative error, the ones in transit, or the ones acquired or transferred during the period that you're setting in the prompt. Okay, so basically, all fixed assets that are not going through a write-off process. Write-off process. Administrative error. This is for whatever reason the system recorded wrongly. I don't know why, but recorded wrongly one asset master record. Then if we spotted that mistake, the system will put it as administrative error. But of course, everything which is in transit, in write-off, or it's been acquired within the record will be outside of this scope. So the rest of the equipments which are installed or which are in stock or which have not been in transit or have not been acquired in the period are within the scope of this report. So how do you have to launch? Basically, this is a prompt. We went through the prompt the other day. It's quite really straightforward. This is what you may expect for example, as at today for UNAMID. And let me click on refresh so you see how the prompt looks like. Okay. What I put here, the period is from July to April, July 2019 to April of now, let's say, to this month. Business area P015, which is UNAMID, reporting entity UNAMID as well. The rest of the fields I left it blank because they do not have any asterisk, which are the mandatory fields. So once I click in OK, then I see this. As I said, this is only for consuming purposes. At the end of the day, I just want to take a look at this, right? KPI and accountability, or at this percentage. Basically, I want to see from all the equipment, all the fixed assets in UNAMID within the reporting period, basically the July to up until now. We can say that 6,620 pieces of equipment with a large amount of millions of dollars in capitalized value have been physically verified, which represents actually 94.84% of the total number of equipments in UNAMID. 382, which represents 5.14%, have been inspected out of the period. When I mean of the period basically is the period that you determine in the prompt. So let me just click again on the prompt, period from period to. So this is the setting, the time range that you set in order to get the data, right, from. So within, let's say, the starting fiscal year or budget cycle, let's say from this peacekeeping operation, which is July 2019 up until now, We have been, let's say, verified most of them, but still 382 are subject to be inspected within this period. I could say that, for example, these ones, these items were inspected before July 2019 or have not been inspected so far. 2 of them have never been inspected, not within this period or never, which represents almost $60,000 in terms of capitalized value. We may want to take a look at these 2 items, right? And the table on the right, it's basically the same thing, but with another format, right? So this is basically the KPI that you want to take a look. This first cell, you really want to be 100% at the end of the period in June 2020. One of these items have been identified as a potential loss, which is value in capitalized value. And this is the first tab. Then if you navigate through the different tabs over here, or you can navigate on the left panel, on the left, physical accountability activity for the period. This is another way to see the same data. Basically, you have just slightly over 7,000 pieces of fixed assets in UNAMID. Most of them, 6,600, which represents this percentage, have been inspected. Almost 400 will have to be inspected with this total value, almost $15 million. And so as you can see, this is another way to say the same, pretty much the same information. And then in case that you are wondering how many fixed assets are in transit within this period, the report gives you 3 of them with this equipment number and this asset number, right? With class and subclass. So it's should be some prefab building with this current acquisition and production cost, which is 3 of them are just above $140,000. And the recognition date of this fixed asset was in August 2017. Okay, so it's a pity that we don't have more specifics, but at least, you know, in just one click, you have a summary of the fixed assets accounted for in this period, and the ones which have never been inspected so far, and the ones inspected out of the period. Okay, I would say that in a nutshell, I mean, UNAMID looks more or less okay. I mean, you would worry if you see this percentage over 70 or 60% in April 2020. So this gives you a good perspective of how the PV process has been going on in UNAMID. Okay, that's report number 1. And I'm going to go back to the presentation. And here you have a screenshot and some definition or explanation on the different items that you'll see in the table, okay? And the different tabs that you may see, right? If you don't have any fixed asset in transit, you'll see this. You'll see this. It looks like an error message, but it's not. It is actually not an error message. It means that there are no fixed assets in transit in the reporting period that you set up in the prompt. Very importantly, really, what you put here in the prompt will define the data retrieved in BI. So that's why, along with this set of reports, you get guidelines from Kirill's shop on how to use the prompts, on how to use these reports. So everyone reports within the same, let's say, context and framework, right? So this is just for KPI for physical verification, okay? As I said, report number 1. Then I don't know if we have any questions, but I mean, this is quite straightforward. All web intelligence reports, it's information for being consumed in a way rather than to be analyzed with the typical business objects drag and drop business that we did the other day, right? I want to jump from this one to report number 5, if I may. It's a report that I kind of like because, we've seen very interesting stuff, not for UNAMID, but some other missions. It's called report number 5, backlog of reconciliation of not found yet P&E. Just getting back to Gianluca's question on not found yet, right? This basically report will tell you which is the value, the capitalized value of the fixed assets and the quantity of fixed assets outstanding in not found yet, meaning that these reports have not been yet found in the entity after the physical verification process. And it's quite worrying if we are not finding a particular set of fixed assets, which in general terms, they are, highly valuable and strategic pieces of equipment in our missions. That's why the target for this KPI, and that's why I was saying that these guys are very, very, very strict with regards to fixed assets. The KPI is set at 0% with a small tolerance rate of 0.5. So meaning that you have to really find your fixed assets after the PV process, and there is no excuse whatsoever to say, no, I haven't found it, and this is the capitalized value so far, because it gives you a really bad image in terms of how the PCI unit or physical verification process or the stewardship of these pieces of equipment have been done so far, right? So it's report number 5. Let me go to the system and see whether, I think I launched it for UNAMID. Yeah, let me see. Here we go. That's certified report. Here so far, we can see that the quantity not found so far is 96, with a capitalized value of almost $3 million of the not found. And the total capitalized value of all the, let's say, fixed assets in UNAMID, so just a little bit, slightly over $300 million. Over 2.9 million out of 300 represents a small portion, but still, I mean, I would wonder why these fixed assets are not being found yet. No, so eventually this will trigger write-off processes, disposal and stuff. But this is report number 5 on the fixed assets not being found or outstanding in terms of physical verification. So this is just a screenshot of different reporting entities, okay, not only for UNAMID, but some others. And this report was, taken in 2018, so it's not updated, right? But it gives you an idea of the prompt, right? And let me just show to you how the prompt looks like. Again, this report as at to date. So if the cutoff date is to date or any other date in the past, with the business area UNAMID, reporting entity UNAMID, and the data we'll get, it's the fixed assets which still have not been found yet after the physical verification process. So that's as per the fixed assets. There are some other reports that include not only fixed assets, but equipment that are below the threshold of being fixed assets. So as I said, you have a set of reports pointing out at fixed assets and another set of reports pointing out at non-fixed assets. No? So that's why if I go to report number 3, now we are going to target only equipment non-being fixed assets, right? It's what they call below capitalization threshold. So these pieces of equipment are not fixed assets. So it's the same rationale behind. It's a web intelligence report, will give you a percentage of this non-capitalized equipment, basically non-fixed asset equipment. And they want the target for this KPI to be 100%, of course, with a little bit, let's say, a bit of wider tolerance rate of 2%, but still, you can say that 98% of your equipment in your mission has to be accounted for, right, after a PV process. There you can see, well, I will go directly to the production rather than screenshot. So this is again for UNAMID, right? So what I did, I set this report as to date, I think. How we read this report the same way as we did report number 1. We can say that 85% of the equipment in UNAMID, which represents 18,822 pieces of equipment with this acquisition value, $44 million, have been, let's say, inspected or physically verified. Still a little bit over 3,000, which represents 13.65%, have not been inspected or were inspected before, let's say, the period. And 179 have never been inspected, which represents a large amount of, which is $463,000. 4 of them have been identified as a potential loss, and there is another tab where we see basically the same piece of information, but in another table, right? We still have time before we finish the let's say reporting cycle, I guess in June 30th, 2020. But the idea is for UNAMID to do a little bit of an effort and take a look at these pending pieces of equipment not being accounted for so far. Maybe it's because there is another cycle that is going to be run in the next 2-3 weeks, and with this cycle they will take a look at these 3,000 reports. I don't know, but it gives you a very good idea of these pieces of equipment. If you want to do an analysis now in terms of an analysis workspace, here you have, let me just launch the prompt. This report, it's what they call 1/3. Basically, it merges all the equipment in UNAMID and all the fixed assets in UNAMID. That's why you have here both. If you click on the match code both, that means that you are going to include in the scope of data both assets and other, which means equipment. So don't be let's say confused with the word other. Other basically means equipment not being fixed assets. If you click on both, basically you are putting on the table all equipment and all fixed assets in UNAMID. Okay. So what I did is I launched a report with the period of July 2019 up until today, with the business area reporting entity UNAMID. Okay. And what you can do here is you can just basically identify equipment master records in your analysis, especially the ones, for example, there is a here, let me see if you can read it well, equipment which has not been located. Our colleagues in the BI developers identify some sort of like a code with an X of all the equipment not being located in the reporting period. So if it has not been located, they tag all those pieces of equipment with an X. So you can drag and drop that attribute and then filter the rest. And you can see that 53 of them had not been located yet. So one thing that I would do is to drag and drop the equipment serial number, and there we'll have a list of those pieces of equipment. You see, I filtered only by the ones with an X. Sorry, because this takes a little bit of time. But I will definitely here, my first action will go to the equipment number. Please bear in mind that all these attributes are sorted in alphabetical order. So equipment number here, equipment number, even you have the person responsible and accountable. Let me just drag and drop. Probably it's going to take a while, so let me go to the presentation and see exactly, right, that if you just select in equipment type asset, you basically have an analysis workspace for report number 1, right? The report number 1, effectiveness of the P&E. If you select other only, you basically are going to analyze the report number 3 in analysis workspace. If you select both, it's, as I said, a merge of the equipment and the fixed assets both together. Then, as I said, always very interesting to, having the serial numbers in our analysis to identify all those items, especially the ones not found. You can link it with storage locations. And in case that we have several reporting entities, for example, you can just drag and drop there. Okay, so as a summary, as a recap, we can say that report number 1 just devoted to fixed assets. Report number 3 devoted to non-fixed assets. And report number 1/3 will give you perspective of all the equipment in your mission, always related to physical accountability, physical verification process in your mission. Okay. Let me see if you see. These are the equipment numbers related to the 53 items that were not found during the reporting cycle with equipment acquisition value. And from there, I can just drag and drop the material description, which the person responsible, even have information on the real estate part with the room, the serialization profile, stock segment, which is the vendor, work center, physical verification attributes. We have plenty of them at the end of the report. So whether the notification has been created or not here, and whether they have been approved in case of the rate of process. So quite interesting, this one. Equipment user status as well, that you can just drag and drop. Let's see, let's do that in case that doesn't take a lot of time. This is already 4:10, and I completely forgot, Brian, that whether Kirill is on board or not.
I was checking the list. They haven't joined in, so I would have stopped you before that.
Yeah, I'm sure
10 minutes over. I think we're fine. No one has jumped in, but no, Kirill is not here, or Vidya, or Jack, or anyone.
All right. So yeah, because I mean, Kirill's shop, it's the one behind all this. They are the masterminds behind all these reports. So if I was saying something wrong, they will they would have said something. If they are not, then I have a little bit more space to say things.
Okay.
So
Ed, actually, in the chat, now that you're filtering and playing around with the objects, Josefa is also asking if you can filter by commodity, transport, engineering. I guess this is so filtering by a fund center or storage location linked to any of these, and then the commodities that they own, I guess.
Well, if, for example, if just the word commodity, I'm going to click on Control F.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question, Josefa. You see find there. I would put there, see if it doesn't break. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's cross our fingers. Maybe the bandwidth is not the best. So yeah, what I would put here, Josefa, is commodity, the word commodity, and then the report will highlight me in yellow whether that word, that concept, it's found within the report. Sorry, there's a bit of resizing when I click on Control F. So I will put here commodity, click on next. Apparently there are no, I guess no commodities there, but I will definitely see whether if I have a fund center on my report. Yeah, usually it doesn't behave like this when you click on Control F, but apparently the system understood that I wanted to resize the whole page. Okay, now it's active. Here, even I can see whether the equipment is an asset or not, which is the equipment is whether it's in the warehouse, whether it has a delivery node. I guess the delivery node is when we want to put that piece of equipment and transport that equipment to another place in terms of transit. Identify whether they are surplus, if they are in a warehouse as well. Let me see. First, let me take a look at the user status first. Scroll to my right. So I have an user status by each of these serial numbers. So I guess that, for example, what these guys do in BI developers is just in order to tag as equipment not being located, they not only take a look at the user status, but they take a look at some other aspects of the equipment master record in order to identify this X as equipment not being found. Okay, so if I want to know exactly which is the rationale behind, I will have to go to the job aid. Let me go. It will be report number. Let's see if it is around here. 1/3, right? Here we go. Analyze workspace. So at the end of the day, it's not a matter of how much you know, which it's important, but how you move around with the supporting tools that we are showing to you, meaning how to work with the layouts and to the reporting functionalities in ECC and in BI, where the supporting documentation is stored in terms of job aids, where the templates are stored, the list of documentation that we're going to give it to you, and cheat sheets. So it's impossible to know everything, especially for property management. But what is possible and what it's in your hand is to gather and collect all that relevant information and place it in a place in your computer, or at least to be organized and have access to this source of important information. So as I said, I don't have the solution, but I know where the job aid is stored. No, so there we'll have to read out. Let's see if I can find here. Let's see, found. Discrepancy found. So there are 5 items not found yet. Here, equipment has not been located. So this is the description of this attribute, right? The one that has the yellow funnel. So what means? It indicates if a piece of equipment meets the conditions required to be marked with equipment has been inspected within the period, indicator, and at the same time, such a physical verification resulted in a discrepancy type equal to 0, 1, not found yet. So meaning that if this piece of equipment was subject to be physically verified and no one found it, then the system will tag an X in BI. But at the same time, if it was never inspected within the period that I included in the prompt, still the system tags it with an X. Okay, so it's one or the other. So that's something that the BI developers created based on the requirements from Kirill and Casimiro and the rest of the colleagues in New York. This is not a master data element that you will find in the equipment master record, but it gives you a little bit of a protein to your analysis, all these things. That's why it's important to go through the job aids and see what's there. So even though that the user status is equipment not found, equipment idle, I might say that these 2 equipments were not inspected within the period or time range that I selected initially, right? And this is the acquisition value. And definitely I can drag and drop some other, let's say, attributes, like, for example, as Josefa was mentioning before, things related to fund center, I think she said.
Maybe, yeah, storage location, fund center. There's also comments on if we can view the net book value and not only the acquisition value. Maybe it's in the measures options. I'm not sure if it's available in this report. And I guess there's also a
net book value. It will be if it is a fixed asset, right?
Yeah, and in this case, we're not looking at those.
Net book value equipment inspected in the period will be here, so it's there.
There you go.
Okay, so again, let me see, because it doesn't go so fast. So let me just, at least I'm showing to you that it's there, so you can check.
There you go.
In terms of center, let's see if we find something. Because I just want to show you how this Control F function works, because it's really handy. But let me see if I can just drag and drop some other attribute. Yeah, it doesn't work for the moment, so we have to keep patient. But at least company, let me see address. Instead of looking for it with Control F, let me just scroll down and see. We have a call center. We have a function location as well. Who is the person responsible? Inventory number, equipment and asset, material and group. Person responsible here. The partner name. Maybe it will be good to see who is the user accountable here for each of these master records. I think there is someone unmuted over there, just in case. So as you can see, basically in a nutshell, and let me go back to the presentation so we don't waste time. See here. In terms of reports, just to have clarity, report number 1 is for fixed assets. Report number 3 is for non-fixed assets. And the one that we're checking now, this analysis workspace, will merge both of them, right? And will give us a little bit more access to an analysis area, like this one, where we can drag and drop things in order to, or different attributes in order to understand the reality behind all these percentages, right? Behind these tables here, this percentage for assets and for pieces of equipment. So I think that if you have a good understanding of how this report number 1, 3, and the analysis workspace that it's behind, along with the report number 5 on the fixed assets not being found, I think that you have a good idea of the BI reports linked to the physical verification process. So, I mean, we could stay here for 2, 3, 4 hours, so I don't want to impact the training, but you see that I can always, sport this report, and you see there is no person accountable for these ones, right?
Yeah, that was one of the comments in the chat as well, right? What did that symbol mean? Right.
Yeah, that means that there is no data there, that nothing was found in the equipment master record there. I don't know, over to you, Brian, in case that you want to close or call it a day, or maybe we can follow on with these different reports.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're
2 hours and 20 minutes already, so I don't want to.
Yeah, exactly, right. We've been 20 minutes past, and at this point, I think maybe there's enough information for the day. If there's any other comment, there's nothing in the chat as far as I see here. The last thing is from Pietro. For commodity, you can use storage location too, and I think that was one of the things you were looking for, right? Before. For commodity, you can use storage location. No, that's the last comment from Pietro. Besides any of that, I think we've covered enough. More may not even be productive anymore at this point. Any other question? Any other comment? I know usually we would extend half an hour if our HQ colleagues were joining in, but they're not, I guess, this week. Maybe another day this week they will. I think this was very important to look at, Daniel. It definitely clarifies a lot of what you're explaining during the first part of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at this point, nothing else has been added to the chat. No one seems to be intervening. Maybe if you want to share the survey of the afternoon, if you have it handy, or if there's some last minute thing you want to show in the report too.
Okay, I'm just dragging and dropping the last storage location just in case. Yeah, let me go through the forms if I find them. See, forms. So would be the afternoon session, right? Share, copy, and I will put it in the chat. Okay. It's right there. How to update So you do have the survey for the afternoon session as well, handy there. And hopefully it was good 2 days for counting, controlling, and physical verification. As you see, from the system point of view, the complexity, the T codes, the different actions that you have to perform in the system are not so difficult. It's a little bit more, it's like who does what, and the implications from the property management point of view of the results that you get after the counting and controlling and the physical verification process. So on the other hand, do not expect to have a great physical verification activity done in UNAMID when you go there, arrive. Maybe it's pending, the counting controlling the same, right? So, but definitely some actions will have to be taken into account after these two important processes are, right, carried on. So the idea is for you to understand the difference between the two. I think it was already understood, which are the roles involved and the different templates involved as well, especially for the physical verification and equipment enrichment. Really, equipment enrichment, this mass template is really of utmost importance for you guys once you are deployed, how to use it or how to guide someone over there in how to use it. Because as I said, all templates in Umoja are a bit of a minefields. So you really have to, go step by step and don't play, really fast, especially on Excel, because it's time consuming, and sometimes if you don't see that the upload was properly done, then you have to start from scratch, and that's not nice. In terms of equipment here, and getting back to the reporting BI, I drag and drop the last storage location here. I have information. So yes, up to you how you want to start working with the reports. And as we said initially, important to have this BI 55 role in BI so you can have full access, not only to this, but to all these 46 different reports that are ready for you to be used and to understand how things are doing in the mission. So over to you, Brian. I think tomorrow it's write-off. We are starting with write-off of a piece of equipment, if I'm not mistaken. So see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Daniel. Thanks everyone else for your insights today. The survey is posted in the chat. I'll stop the recording right now. And